2, 3, 4.
Jumped into deep, let's go swimming in the pool, float in the sunshine, dispels all the gloom, and it's alright now. I'd like to compliment your style, and you had me worried, the things were turning far, and it's alright now.
If schools think that learning only takes place in the school building, they're missing an enormous opportunity to make the most of what lies around. So for Learning Through Landscapes, the school grounds and the school building are a continuous learning environment when we think of it as whole campus. But if you talk to children and young people, it's very clear that outdoors is different and special, and things happen outdoors that can't happen indoors.
The outdoor school environment can be developed and used to support learning, play and well-being. The outcome is better attainment and, most importantly, better achievement by young people.
The majority of the children, I'd say 99.9%, want to be outdoors, and even if they're a bit apprehensive at first, they're not once they've done it quite a few times.
When you think that so much thought goes into designing play areas in primary schools and early learning settings, and then it just seems to stop and it becomes playing pitches in secondary schools.
It's also about looking at the potential that the school grounds offer for children's formal learning, for their informal learning, their play opportunities, and I mean that right through into top-end sixth form of secondary schools. Play means different things to a 3-year-old than it does to an 18-year-old, but it's still an important aspect of their development.
Because it isn't a boring ground, it's a playground.
Willowcroft's a fresh start school. It's been opened 2 years ago. So obviously we're trying to improve the issues that we had, which was attendance, behaviour and standards, and we've done that a lot through outdoor learning really. We've used that as a driver to develop those standards in particular. And the other thing we've been looking at, and we're still developing really, we're at the early stages with that, and that's the outdoor learning within the school grounds. Forest school traditionally comes from Scandinavian countries really, where they take the school out into the woods in our case, and it's where the children actually go outside to learn in an open environment, and it's often learning through play. Traditionally it was done with the foundation stage children in Oxfordshire, but we've taken it right the way through to year 6. So you've got the play side and then you've got the curriculum side as well. One of our big beliefs at the moment is there aren't any wet plays at all. And actually children really enjoy it when they go outside to play in the rain. The play changes as well. They're really involved in splashing in puddles, and if they've got the right clothing to do that, then they should be allowed to do that. And also it develops their learning, doesn't it? That they're outside, experiencing different weathers, and different language comes in there because they're talking about the weather.
But there's not any more, or there doesn't seem to be with my lot anyway, the real, it's wet play.
Yeah.
It's much nicer to be out here.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. They get the options, don't they, out here as well?
Yeah.
Which is a lot easier.
So there's as much choice out here as there would be inside on a wet play.
I thought there's a real opportunity to develop outdoor learning, and that's where my vision is for the next 5 years. But I didn't want the vision just to be mine, I wanted it to be everyone's, and it was something that when I talked with children and staff and parents that we all wanted, and governors did too. So the children were involved in a number of projects. One was to find out the kind of activities that they wanted to play with at playtime and lunchtimes, and we brought in lots of different equipment that the children had suggested, things like tarpaulins and table tennis and tyres and things, and we just explored what happened, and out of that the children felt that there was lots of new experiences and lots of creative, imaginative play that they hadn't had. The staff felt that they were amazed standing and observing the kind of learning that was going on. Children who we wouldn't normally expect to cooperate and collaborate were really engaged in their learning through the whole of playtime. It wasn't like just running off steam, it was like, wow, this is brilliant. One of our classes, one of our year groups, actually explored the idea of developing a maze, and they went to actually visit a maze and then came back and designed their own, and we had it cut into the grass so the children could play. And it was just amazing the amount of learning that was going on in that maze. And even now, in September, sort of 4 months later, there is still really creative play happening.
It gives you a greater perception or a greater understanding of how space can impact on the way you learn. So for an artist anyway, you might work in a very small classroom and your work might be very, very small, but if I then ask the students to go and paint on a huge wall outside, it really affects the way they create their work. And I think all subjects could benefit from that, kind of exploring the different spaces to work in.
How do you think other teachers can use the school grounds? Because it's mainly the art teachers that use.
I think it's just an area that kind of maybe teachers need to develop projects, and maybe departments need to work together. So like art might work with science and we might have a project. So, you know, things like that where maybe subjects that you don't normally think would happen outside might kind of work with a department that does work outside a bit, and that might help, so that might make a project a bit more interesting.
Well, I taught last year Chinese Tai Chi. It's really, really interesting because it's open air. Children from like year 9, they really enjoyed it. They were doing the movements slowly. One thing is good is that it's fresh air, you know, and it's open. People can really enjoy it and relax. You know, after doing that, they tend to just meditate, they close their eyes, and it's really interesting. That's the reason why we need that environment, open air.
Also, some spaces we've got, they're just there, but we don't really do anything with them.
I like the school because it's like big, empty.
Why did they make this pavement up to here? Exactly. Why did they make the pavement up to there and then stop it? This is telling everybody that there's a path needed here.
We were just discussing how the school needs to be improved.
We could divide the football pitches so there's more things to do.
Yeah, like the girls don't have anything to do around the school. It's mainly boys that could play football and everything.
If you wanted to cross the football pitch, the football wouldn't bash into you and you wouldn't hurt yourself.
Sometimes when you're outside and you want to sit down, you have to sit on the stone steps which are quite manky.
If I could improve the school, I'd get more benches for people to sit and eat their lunches.
I think there should be more sports during break.
And I would get nicer bins so it'll encourage people to put stuff in the bin.
But the teachers, they don't really want to do nothing because they think if they get this, then obviously the next few weeks it's going to be gone.
So why would it be gone?
I don't know, but some students, they don't really respect the school like we do. And they just take it as a joke to mess around, break glasses and do that stuff.
Evidence shows that where young people are involved right from the start and are directing these projects themselves and establishing what their own needs are and how they can be met, that vandalism is vastly reduced.
Maybe sort of 3 or 4 different locations around the school that you might have seen some blue paintings and things like that. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a project that we did last year where the students did some big paintings around the school because they wanted to sort of take ownership of it. And I think, you know, it shows there's no kind of, you know, nobody's done anything wrong to them or damaged them or anything. They've been left nice because people sort of respect when people kind of take the time and effort to sort of improve the space.
I would get some students to make the Memorial Garden look like a happier place and a better place, and then also that's helping the students because they're like working together to make something look good for the school.
I think we should carry on the group so that the school can get the better things that we need to improve the school.
I have classes outside, so maybe if we put up like a little shady place, like a little willow something or something, I don't know, then people like the teachers would want to go outside more with their class. Because I think it would be well nice to have like outside classes.
Tricky to give staff the confidence that children, you know, won't get out of the school grounds, and that myself as head teacher will take responsibility for that.
Something that's probably not ingrained in our culture as much as in primary settings and early year settings. And I certainly can't remember a lecture or a discussion at university or in any situation since that's made us think for a minute, well, how could you use the place just outside your classroom and the wider parts of the grounds around the school? I think to have some training that brought those opportunities to the front of our minds would be helpful.
One of the discussions we had with young people is, which subjects couldn't you teach or be learning in outside? And the answer is, there isn't one.
So these are not necessarily expensive interventions in a school grounds. The message that we're giving to children is actually, this is your space, you are valued, you are an integral part of making this school mechanism work indoors and outdoors, and therefore it's worth investing in.
If I could improve the school, I would try to persuade students to appreciate the stuff we already have. And if we became a better school, then teachers might trust us to make them different changes we want, to have a better environment.
So we have a lot of children that come alive when they go outside that you just wouldn't believe, and lots of teachers talk about that you can get very quiet children in the classroom that all of a sudden they're alive and they want to be leaders and things like that, but you wouldn't see that in a classroom situation.
So even the shyest of children are becoming so much more confident outdoors and so much more, and bringing that back into the classroom as well.
And leading the other children in it as well.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I noted with the parachutes. The children took it over totally. An adult would start it and then the children would take it over and play their games.
Well, I think a lot of changes is better now than it ever been.
We love our school.
Jumped in too deep. Let's go swimming in the pool, float in the sunshine.
And I've got another thing what we want in our school. What? Where you can, there's a remote control and you can do remote control at cars and they're like that big and people can sit in them and then you can make the car go around to somewhere. And they tell you, there's a little speaker and you've got a speaker on your top and they tell you where they want to go. You've got cartoons. And you've got cartoon problems. Shut up.